And as I focused on my value, it allowed me to start to see how much I underappreciated who I am. So it allowed me to receive less.
I'm Patrice Washington, and this is the Redefining Wealth Podcast, where authenticity leads to alignment and abundance. Join us each week as we peel back the layers on what wealth truly means and dive into conversations that inspire, connect, and empower you to live your richest life. Get ready to challenge the status quo. It's time to redefine wealth for yourself. Hey there, you're listening to the Redefining Wealth Podcast with Patrice Washington, and I am so glad you are back for another episode. It always brings me such great joy to have these conversations with my friends in real life. These are the types of conversations that just nurture my soul. I call these women super friends. And if you were at the Redefining Wealth live event last year, 2023, you heard this dynamic woman, Sheri Riley, speak on the Super Friends panel. And I've had the pleasure since then of having a Super Friends brunch with some of my good girlfriends here in Atlanta every other month. And there was one month where Sheri ended up sharing that she had this download that God said, you pray big, but do you receive big? And we were just all blown away. And ever since then, I've known that I wanted her to bring that wisdom to you, my purpose chasers, because as we are seeking to redefine wealth, we are praying about things that we don't even have the capacity to sustain yet. I've been saying that for years, but when I heard Sheri put it in this context, I knew it was the conversation for us. So Sheri Riley is an empowerment speaker. She's a high performance life coach and the award-winning author of Exponential Living. Stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are. Her clients include the NBA, Chicago Bears, Universal Music Group, the Coca-Cola Company, and so many more. And we get to have her wisdom right here on the Redefining Wealth podcast. So after this week's affirmation, the next thing you'll hear is my conversation with my good girlfriend, the Sheri Riley. This week's affirmation is, I am ready to receive bigger. Today, I take a stand and affirm my readiness to not just pray bigger dreams, but to give myself permission to receive bigger blessings. With open arms and an open heart, I settle into the knowing that overflow is my birthright. I release any limiting beliefs or self-doubt that may block the flow of abundance, and I allow the space for greater opportunities to manifest in my life. With unwavering faith and gratitude, I welcome exceedingly more than I can even imagine to flow to me and align my thoughts and actions with that frequency. I know that by doing this, I can attract bigger and better experiences into my reality. Declare with me today, I am ready to receive bigger. Welcome back to the Redefining Wealth Podcast, Sheri.
Girl, you know this is one of my favorite moments in time, right? Like being one of the first interviews that launched this powerhouse of a podcast. Any and every time I get to come back is like the best reunion with my super friend, my sister, my super friend.
Is this your third time now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Baby, we are getting old enough to have people actually come back 3 times. That is incredible.
Old enough to come back 3 times and evolved enough to have new up-leveled conversation.
Let's get into that. And that is exactly why I actually invited you, because this month we've been talking about the purposeful pivot. We've been talking about what it looks like when purpose is evolving and you have to go through that turbulence. Because a lot of people think, oh, you're just going to evolve, from one mountaintop to the next. And they don't expect any valleys. They don't expect any trepidation. They don't expect any resistance. I'm like, baby, you got to buckle up. Purpose is going to require a bit of turbulence. I really do believe that. It's just a part of the journey. And you are one of those people that, because we have been friends for, I don't know how long now, our girls are 16 going on 17. And we were just talking, we said, we better start recording because we started tearing up before we even started recording, thinking about it. We remember them playing in Chick-fil-A at the little playhouse and they were like 6.
Yes.
And so it's been a decade that we've had an opportunity to watch each other evolve and shift and grow. What I've been telling people, Sheri, is it's not easy. It's not easy to go through a huge pivot, but you can do it with ease. There is a way to do it with more ease. Talk to us about these different iterations that we've even known you in. For people who may have not heard from you since your first podcast interview 7 years ago, talk to us about what it's been like for you to evolve.
A rocky road. It's been a rocky road. But I will say, I'm going to start here. I cannot cry within the first 2 minutes. I literally was looking for a picture on my phone the other day. And when I was looking for the picture, it prompted me to go look for something in my calendar for me to remember the date of the picture. And when I did a search on my calendar, I put a name in. And you know how when you search, it pulls up things you weren't even remembering was in there. And literally September 2016, I had a declaration in my calendar that I had on repeat for a week that I wanted to be intentional about. And basically that item on my calendar was everything I'm doing in 2022. This was 2016. In 2016, I was speaking to what I'm doing now in 2022. But if I look at what was going on in 2016, I didn't have any sense of clarity. I didn't have any sense of direction. I didn't have any connections intentional around what I declared. This was my declaration to go back and realize that I made that declaration in 2016, but the manifestation of it didn't happen until 2023. And the actualization of it didn't happen until 2024. And so when you ask, like, what does that journey look like? That journey looks like, one, what you speak and what you think, what you believe and what you activate when you don't have a clear roadmap. Understanding that it's going to be like this. It's going to be like this. And so my favorite line from Beyonce is when she says her and Jay-Z went to hell with heaven on their side. When you're pivoting in purpose, you got to understand that you got to go sometimes into the pit of hell with heaven on your side.
Ooh. Sheri, you know we say this every time. We say this every time we get together as just girlfriends. Sheri's one of my super friends, like a real friend. And September 2016 was also for me when the boulder happened. So we always talk about here the boulder effect. So there's the pebbles. God is telling you like something has to shift, but you're like, not right now. It's going well, right? Because things are still streaming in. So it's not a big thing. Then a rock happens. It's a bit more uncomfortable, but the water is still able to like, again, stream in, get around it, get over it somehow. And then the boulder happens and it just feels like everything is blocked and stuck and everything that you thought you knew, you don't know. And it is such a shift. And for me, September 2016 is when I found out about my former husband's infidelity in the most dramatic way possible and all the things that went along with that. But it was out of that. I felt the same way that you kind of described. It's like, I saw that God had something more for me, even though career-wise, I was great and I'm on the Steve Harvey show and, you know, I'm selling books and I'm on tour and I'm speaking at Essence Festival with my face plastered across the front. Remember when we were real hot? We were real hot.
Hot, hot.
hot, like sweating hot in Essence Festival. One time, Sheri and I rolling around. All of these things are happening. And then boom, the boulder. If I'm honest, looking back, there were pebbles, there were rocks. I was romanticizing. I didn't acknowledge them. But I will say that when that boulder hit, I also felt September 2016, I have to redefine wealth for myself. I have to be clear about what I genuinely need, want, desire. And this podcast was birthed a year later. And still, I feel like you're saying it took several years for that to even really clarify. But I just kept moving forward, even when it hurt.
Yes. My boulder was 2012. My entire life fell apart, like every area, my dad, my marriage, my stability. Here I am having a very successful consulting firm for 17 years. I have a brand that people respect. I have a name that people appreciate. And my entire world fell apart. I was homeless. I was living with one of my good friends in her spare bedroom with my 6-year-old daughter at the time. I mean, at the time we were out at Chick-fil-A. I was homeless at that time and no one around me knew. And the interesting thing was I'm one of them people, I'm an only child and I'm the one, I always want support. I always want people to, because I'm an only child. I want like to reach out and get support. And when God told me to be quiet and he told me to understand that this journey didn't have anything to do with me being homeless. Now that didn't make sense to me at the time because I'm homeless. But he always took me back to 1 Timothy 6:17 through 21, where it says, command those who are wealthy not to be arrogant and put their hope in riches, but put their hope in God who gives them all things for their enjoyment. And when he says command, the only way you can command somebody is they have to respect you.
Yes.
Right? They got to respect you. And so in this place and space, he said that the day is going to come when you're going to tell the world about this season when you had nothing in man's eyes, but you're birthing exponential living. And the truth of the matter is when you had nothing and was pouring into people who had everything, it's going to allow them to go, hold up, but you didn't have anything and you were helping me and I didn't know that. And it's going to share with them a truth about me. Also, the day is going to come when you're going to have the equal to everything that you're speaking into, the wealth, the access, the influence. And still, those people are going to see something uniquely different. That now you're on even plane and there's still something different about you. And so in that season when I had nothing or in the season when I have everything, neither state is about me. It's always about God. It's always about the purpose. It's always about the impact. And that's what I had to be obedient to when I didn't fully understand it.
Sheri, I hear someone saying right now, though, how can you be obedient when it feels like literally you've lost everything or everything is falling apart, especially when you're such a brilliant woman? This is what I learned. And I know the things to go do. Like, I know what I can go do. I know there are people I can call. And yet a part of obedience for me, one year, the theme was obedience. It was like God said, what would your life look like if every time I told you to move, you move? That's radical action. So I got into that. One season, it was like, okay, God said, do this. I'm going. I saw the fruits of that. And then the next year he said, and obedience also looks like, what if you know what to do and I tell you not to? Boom. I was like, oh, and that's the one, especially when you are evolving and you're trying to clarify, well, what am I called to do? And as a doer, a zillion things you can do. And God is like, be still, be silent in this season and wait.
Oh, I just experienced that. I'm in the middle of it right now. Well, the two sides of it. So the beginning of this year, and woo, girl, you always get all the transparency because I love you. I know this is such a safe space. But for those of you who don't know, I've known Usher since he was 14 years old, and he is my really good friend now, right? Really good friends. We are friends, brother, sister, friends. And going into his performance for the Super Bowl, I'm very proud. And this is the 30 years we've worked for. This is the dreams that I've sat on his couch on Thanksgiving when he was 16 and we dreamed about these moments, and he's put in the work for it. And so we're going into Super Bowl like December. And what do? You're going to reach out, make sure, okay, is this straight? I want to be here. I want to do this. And God told me, don't you dare do anything. Don't talk about it. Don't reach out about it. Don't ask for anything, nothing. And I'm like, but God, like, why would I not? Why would I not? But here's the thing. I've learned the true value of obedience. I know because I've been pruned and processed. So how I got here, we can talk about, but that pruned and processed. But this was a next level because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. When you want to know you're in a season of obedience, it's when it don't make sense.
Baby.
Your logical mind, right? And so long story short, God said the obedience was not to do. And what God did in that act of obedience was allowed me to learn how to receive big. Because by me not doing anything, it allowed Usher the opportunity to show me the level of appreciation that he had, to make sure that I had all the access, to make sure that I was there. And it also allowed him to show me the appreciation that I would have never given him the room to do, right? So that's the obedience of not speaking. Now, fast forward, God has me in the obedience 6 months later of when he's telling me to speak. Because this time, I want people in my environment. I'm doing this program, PowerBroker Academy, and I want people to reach out and be like, I saw your post. I need to be there. Oh my God, I heard about it. I need to be there. Now God is saying, I need you talking to everybody. Here's this side of obedience. Because this side of obedience, and Pastor Darius just preached this at Change, he said, because there's some doors that are automatic, but in order for the automatic door to open, you got to get close enough to the sensor. So this act of obedience, in order for the automatic doors to open, this act of obedience is you got to move yourself next to the sensor so the automatic door will open. 2 different ways to receive big, but they come from 2 different acts of obedience.
Ooh, friend, this is so good in confirmation for me. So by the time this episode comes out, the audience will have heard how and why I gave up $1 million in revenue last year as an act of obedience. Because God said, and it was so illogical. Like on paper, it doesn't make sense for someone to have a proven way of launching something, getting the clients in, delivering. My team had it all dialed in. This is what we've been doing for 3 or 4 years. And then God was like, no. And I was like, by no, you mean what now? But because I've had to build the muscle, I've chosen to build the muscle of obedience in either way God speaks. I knew that I knew that I knew. And do you know, it was just a couple, I would say maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago, where in my prayer time and meditation, it was like God said, now go get your people. This wasn't about building an audience. You now need to go get the people who were assigned to you. And I need you to just show up and be authentically you. You don't need all them big launches that you were getting kind of in that, not getting, that was just the world I was a part of. I'm not asking you for any of that. I had to clear that out so you could focus. And all of the things that have been added to my life in that year of obedience, of not doing, when I know all the things to do, all of the, I would say just the divine downloads, friend, the framework, how God was just showing me things and piecing things together and connecting the dots in a way that I could not have seen if I was busy doing all of the things. I wouldn't have been able to see it. And I wouldn't be able to receive, as you know, I'm in a season of receiving like love and just genuine support all around, even from the group that we're in. We call ourselves the Super Friends. Like, I am receiving so much love and support in a way I was not prepared to receive before, because I always operated from, I got it. I have siblings, but I grew up as an only child. And I was taught that like strong independence, and I got it and I got it. And God's like, in order for you to receive big, you're going to have to learn how to just receive anything.
Yeah. And what I'm realizing, even at a higher level of understanding, is timing, God's timing. What I'm really understanding at a higher level around purpose is, even when you're in tune, even when you are a person of faith and you really spend time in prayer, meditation, and listening and learning the word, we still don't fully grasp God's timing. And so for me, I've been in this season, I didn't realize that a part of my anxiousness, like I've managed anxiety through the power of peace, but I still had anxiousness, right? And there's a difference between anxiety and anxiousness. And I realized my anxiousness was around this sense of God's timing, where I'm like, okay, God, you gave me this idea. That means you're going to manifest the fullness of this idea now, because of all the work, all the years, all the praying, all the obedience, all the sacrifice. So now I'm like, oh, this is God's timing for the manifestation. When the reality is, my vision of the manifestation and God's timing was not in alignment. Meaning I just got this revelation recently. If let's say my numbers were 100, right? And the numbers come in at 50. I feel like I haven't done what I was supposed to do, or come on, I'm human. I'm disappointed in God because I thought we were on alignment here with the numbers being 100. We came in at 50. Something's off. But it's what you just said. When I really look at all the things God allowed me to receive and all the things God gave me during that season, He gave me 100. He gave me 100 in people, friends, love, growth, understanding, appreciation, opportunity, time with my daughter, all of these amazing things that, if I'm really honest, were bigger than the number 100. And then the timing for the number 100, maybe the next year. When we get so caught up in our vision of God's timing, we miss the fullness of what He's really releasing to us. And that's a big piece in this journey of purpose, is aligning God's timing with what we believe the timing of the manifestation of what He's given to us is supposed to be. That thing, I'm in the middle of that one right now.
And let me tell you, this is what we're doing at Redefining Wealth Live this year, because in that same way you recently had that download, that connection, same with me. God said, you just want to use your context, what the 100 provides. You don't realize that you can have what the 100 provides with 50. So what we think we want is the money and the numbers and, whatever the accolade is. No, you want the love associated with achieving that. You want the respect. You might want the joy. You might want the peace. You might want the security. That's what you're really going for. And you assume that you need the 100 to get it. And God says, you don't need the 100. I could do it at 70.
Yes.
But you're missing the fact that you already have it. And I've already given it to you. You're already walking in it and experiencing it, because you're only measuring using one metric, which is, I didn't get the 100. But when you look at your life through the pillars and you can see, I'm only looking at, the work pillar that I didn't get the 100. I didn't get the 100 people to come to the event or to do the thing. And God is like, yeah, but look at all the other hundreds you hit. You're just not looking at them. Baby, that thing will change your entire perspective. And that is really what redefining wealth is about, is not only looking at that one metric, but looking at your life in totality and looking at who you've become in the process.
And I'm going to add to that, when we go through the turbulence of living in our purpose, there are benchmarks that are impactful spiritually, emotionally, physically. So there's these benchmarks like you experienced when you got the news, right? When I got news that forced me and my daughter into homelessness, right? There's these benchmarks that we experience on this journey of purpose. And I mean, for me, there was a long season where when I say lost everything, I mean, financially, at 1 year, my company made $50,000 that whole year. So when you take taxes and all, so it's like $12,000, right? That was like seasons of brokenness and being broken. And so there's these benchmarks that happen that we end up putting a pole, right? We end up putting, in spiritual terms, there's a stronghold, but we end up putting these markers there. And many times these markers motivate us, right? One of the reasons that I work so hard and pray so hard is because I believe God for financial abundance and overflow. And also I've lived being broke. And I don't want to experience that anymore, right? So there's spiritual motivation and there's real motivation outside of that in the natural realm. But what I realized in this journey of purpose is at some point, God has to disconnect us from that benchmark. So we look at that benchmark as a moment. We talk about it. We use it as a reference point because it's our testimony. Look at what I've overcome. Look at where I was and look what God did, right? But the backside of that is it also becomes a line that we hold on to. We wrap the rope around that testimony and we now wrap it around our waist. And now our entire journey is still connected to that moment in time. And so there comes a point to receive big. You got to release yourself from that rope that's holding on to the testimony, that connection, that stronghold, that paradigm shift. There's something there in that space that's no longer serving you. And that disconnect is what's going to release you. And so many times, especially when we're people of faith, we believe we got to keep holding on to that testimonial. I'm always going to have that story. I'm always going to have that truth. But there's a connection to that that's also holding me back. And so in discernment, we got to really go before God and say, God, I know you allow me to experience this as the testimony, but what parts of it do I need to release? What parts are still holding me back?
Baby.
What parts have I emotionally connected to in a way that is keeping me from seeing my future through a different lens? Patrice, I was literally praying, God, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I keep getting to a similar space and place, expecting a new result. And this is what God said to me. He said, because you're still holding on to the thing I've let go of.
Ooh.
I've released you from that. You still holding on to it. It will always be a part of your story, but it is not supposed to be a part of what you filter your decisions, your discernment, your trust, your receiving. It's no longer supposed to serve you in that way. That right there has set me free in such a way.
So good. Every other month, I attend a Super Friends brunch where we talk about everything from purpose to pursuing new dreams and even menopause. Yep, you heard me, menopause, because if you're over 40 and your girlfriends don't keep it real, I don't know what to tell you. But we have these important conversations because how can we redefine wealth if we're not keeping up with our hormonal health? Now, we discovered Happy Mammoth. It's the company that created Hormone Harmony, and it's dedicated to making women's lives easier. And that means using only science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for us. They make no compromise when it comes to quality. Hormone Harmony contains herbal extracts called adaptogens that help the body adapt to any stressors like chaotic hormonal changes that happen naturally. And any woman with symptoms of hormonal imbalances can take Hormone Harmony. It's perfect for hot flashes, night sweats, menopause-related brain fog, sleeplessness, occasional bloating and gas. You get the picture. Hormone Harmony can help with all of these things. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com by using the code RW at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code RW for 15% off. Are you ready for Redefining Wealth Live 2024? I hope so, because we already have everything locked in and all we need is you in Atlanta, Georgia. Do not miss this. Right now, we have early bird tickets on sale. You know you want to come, so you might as well lock in that ticket right now. Click the link below or go to redefiningwealthlive.com to secure your seat today. We talk about willing to lose. What are you willing to lose to truly step into what God has called you to do? And I was coaching someone around this recently who, was willing to lose a relationship that was toxic to her and for her. And I said, but have you been willing to lose the belief that you have about your worth in relationship? Because sometimes we only see ourselves, right, based on the labels that other people give us. So who am I if I'm not a wife? So you let go of him, and yet you're still holding on to all this other stuff about why you must be a wife or why wives are higher prioritized in society, and what all this means. So now you dating people that seem kind of similar because you're just attached to the idea of being a wife. We have to detach from that. When we release a thing, it's not just releasing that thing. It's releasing our beliefs around what we've made that thing mean, right? Because you can make a title or anything else an idol. People will sit up here and talk about, I don't do yoga because that's idolatry. But then you idolize these expired seasons and hold on to things. That's an idol. That can be an idol, that I have to stay in this space doing this thing all the time. That could be a problem, right? So what beliefs are you willing to release associated with that thing? What behaviors are you willing to release that were associated with that thing? What possessions and what people? Because it's never just the thing. Sometimes it's also the conversation that you have with certain people around that thing. You may need to release the time that you spend reminiscing and harping over the same stuff over and over and over again, rehearsing past hurts. There are a lot of other things that sometimes I think we don't explore when we think about what do I have to release in order to receive big.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. When you ask that question, what am I willing to release, let go of? And my answer is so perfect that you didn't spoke what you spoke, because my answer was me. My way of thinking, my way of feeling. Literally, I've been on this journey in 2023. God really began to work on me in a whole nother way. In that space of really working on me, I realized there's so much about me I had to evolve. Like God said, you've always focused on your vices. I need you to focus on your value. And as I focused on my value, it allowed me to start to see how much I underappreciated who I am, which allowed me to receive less.
Ooh, say it again. Wait a minute. Don't go too fast. Don't go too fast. Say that again.
I underappreciated who I am, so it allowed me to receive less. I couldn't even see where I was receiving less because my value of myself. And the thing is, it had nothing to do with my confidence or how much I love myself, all of those things. I had those things. It's just that I was always so focused on the vices. Think about the work we do. We always want to help people get better. I'm always wanting to do more. And so it's always like, okay, I want to elevate from here to here. The company made 3 million. I want the company to make 4 million next year. And so it's always, okay, well, that means I got to fix this. I got to change that. And God said, but in that, I need you focusing on your value. And honestly, Patrice, I was resistant. And I was resistant because I thought, well, that's not going to help me grow. Isn't that a form of arrogance? Well, I'm going to miss the things that I need to do differently. You know, I had all of these mental mindsets around owning my value that was handicapping me in receiving big. And what I began to realize is that in owning my value, it allowed me to have this filter of how you get better by releasing the things that aren't helping you get better.
Instead of forcing yourself to try to fix.
Instead of forcing yourself, try to fix. Absolutely. Because so much of it wasn't anything I needed to do differently. It was things that I needed to let go of that was no longer serving me in this next level. Let me give you a real practical example of that. A practical example of that is, as an entrepreneur, I always said, I only eat what I kill. I only eat what I kill. But my whole commitment the last 2 years is scaling my business. And scaling my business means I want to create the team in every area of the company that the company will generate more and have more impact, but will need less of me. Because my goal is freedom. I used to think it was financial freedom, but what I began to understand is, no, I want freedom in every area of my life. And so when you say things like you only eat what you kill, it means you're always the one hunting. But it contradicts how you scale a company. Because if you're scaling a company, that means you're separated from the hunting. And so I had to release this whole ideology around I only eat what I kill in order for my company to be free to grow and scale and get bigger. So in order to truly receive big, which is freedom for me, I have to absolutely stop saying something that has been my motivator for years. I mean, decades, really, being an entrepreneur. And in that, it's now allowed me practically to understand my role is supposed to be totally different than what it was before. But let me add the second part of that. That means I have to show up in rooms differently. Because when you only eat what you kill, when I go into a room, I'm looking for, okay, who do I need to network with? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to meet with? Right? But in this place of receiving big, I've earned the right to walk into the room and be a magnet for opportunity, not the pursuer of opportunity.
Oh.
And what that has done is it has forced me to truly understand the next level of the value of who I am. I've had to get to know me at this next level. I've had to get to know me because, again, when we hold on to that benchmark, we don't release ourselves to go to that next level. We don't release ourselves to get to know ourselves at that next level. And so when you say, what would you release? I've had to release a version of myself that honestly, I had outgrown. I had just outgrown. And it wasn't that I was, changing who I am, but I have outgrown. But I had to learn I need to let go of that person. And it's okay.
And it's okay because that person did her part. She did what she needed to do with who she was, where she was, what she had been exposed to up until that point, like what was around her, her environment. She did what she needed to do to survive. And even in that season, if it felt like thriving, it was what she needed to do. And I've just been learning, do not demonize younger versions and former versions of myself. Without her, there is no me.
Yes.
And something that was very real and relevant for her at that time, it's okay to accept when a season is up, when you've just outgrown it. There are ways of operating in business while they're all in integrity, they were just different. At that time, I could show up in a different way. But baby, as a woman over 40 with a teenage child and a new season of life with all these different things that have happened, making a demand that I show up exactly how I did 10 years ago, 7, 5, 3 years ago is unfair. It's unfair to who I am authentically. It's almost to say, have you not seen all of this growth? Like all of these new relationships, all of this perspective shift, all of these things, and then to put a demand to be who or how I was several years ago is just unfair to who I am currently.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest values I've gotten in this elevated space of the next level of who I am is I really didn't know how to ask for help. I looked at it as such a negative. I looked at asking for help. People would then think I owe them, or it made people think that I didn't know what I was doing, or it was just inconvenient for other people. Like, I don't want to inconvenience other people with what I need. And I realized that on one end of the continuum, asking for help, many of us, especially those in your community, right? Because we out here making it happen. And so on one end of the continuum, we have this negative idea, all the things I just shared. And then on the other end of the continuum, when we do ask, we ask from a place of weakness. Well, if you have time, could you help me with this? Or I know, I could do this, but I need. So we would ask from this victim mindset or this place of vulnerability or insecurity. And what I realize is both ends of the continuum is off. Not asking and then asking from making yourself think you're coming from a place of weakness is also off. What I realized, Patrice, is the power it's not in the fact that we're asking. It's in the fact that we are informing. If we can shift the whole idea around I'm asking for something and really align it with the fact that you are informing people of something that can empower you and or maybe something that they can be a part of. So when we get rid of the whole idea that you're asking, what do you have or where are you in this space that you need to inform people that could be a part of the story of the journey? That is such a powerful insight for us power brokers, us women who are out here making stuff happen. Remove this idea around asking and empower yourself to receive big by understanding that you are informing. And those who are in alignment with that information, you are informing them about information. Those that are in alignment with that information will be a part of the story. And those who aren't in alignment with that information will say no, because the information isn't in alignment.
And that's okay. We did an episode years ago, and it was about people want to support you. They literally just don't know how. And like you said, we cower when it's time to actually ask for help, when really it's a powerful practice. And we've talked about this in the Super Friends, like how we're all learning to ask for help more and more, especially when you're the one that people usually come to. Even when I made the ask of you all to be on the Super Friends panel for Redefining Wealth Live last year, and the way all of you busy women with full plates and just women that I respect so much, within minutes in a group chat, everybody was like, I'm in. Okay, what's the day? I'll support you. I sat and cried. I literally sat and cried. And I had to ask, really sit and think about it. I think I talked to my therapist about this, or my coach at the time. I was just like, I don't know why I was so surprised. Why was I so surprised? The real surprise for me was in the moment of courage I had to ask 6 of y'all at one time in a group chat. I don't know, but it was the same thing that you're talking about, like that truly, truly learning to receive, because people want to support you, especially when you are already known for planting seeds and supporting others. And I am so down to support my friends when they need support. So the idea that that they wouldn't is wild, but it's a part of that programming, I think, that many of us kind of grew up with. Like, you make it happen on your own, you do things yourself and all the things. I'm really glad to be working on being delivered. It's still a work in progress. And I think that's also something else we have to normalize. Hey, podcast family, big news. I've just launched a game-changing app designed exclusively for you. It is officially the Redefining Wealth app with Patrice Washington. Now, all of my courses, coaching, live streams, and most importantly, my community are just a tap away, all under one roof. You can download the app now for seamless access to exclusive content and a vibrant community of purpose chasers from all over the world. This is the ultimate hub for all things Patrice Washington and all things redefining wealth. You can search for it in your app store or find the link at redefiningwealth.app. That's redefiningwealth.app. Do not miss out. Your journey to redefining wealth just got a whole lot easier. Download the app today and let's take this adventure of redefining wealth for ourselves to the next level together. I am just really a work in progress, as we all are. And this is why I love having super friends. This is why I love being in close proximity to such powerful, amazing women, and why I always want to expose my community to the women who are really pouring into me, because we need to normalize this conversation. You're not by yourself. If you're listening and you thought it was just you, it's not just you. We the same.
And I want to say, look at, you made the ask trembling, as you said, right? Cried after you got the immediate yeses. But look what was birthed out of that. From that panel that we came and shared with our sister, our super friend, we then committed to making sure we continued this connection point. And from that, we've gotten together in December. We've gotten together like every 6 to 8 weeks.
October, December, February, April.
Yes.
Yeah.
April. We made a commitment to keep getting together. And what that has done for us, it has healed us. It has empowered us. It has encouraged us. It ain't structured. We come together. We laugh. Nothing is off limits. But what I take away from that is not just the idea that there's women there for me. I have a tangible every 6 to 8 week reminder, and I have a daily chat on my phone reminder that there are women who want me to win, that there are women that I can be vulnerable, I can cry, I can inform, I can fall, I can get up. But that came from you taking that moment to make the ask, or as I now say, to inform us of an opportunity that could align. And that information you gave us has created a lifeline. I mean, let's be honest, ladies, in December, I had surgery on December 15th. On December 17th,
she was at the Super Friends brunch.
I came to a Super Friends brunch.
In the booth,
because my soul needed to be there. And here's the power of that. My soul needed to be there. God had given me a download of Sheri. You pray big, you believe big, it's time to receive big. And that download is what got us here.
Yeah. Oh, full circle. I love it. I love it. Oh, you pray big, you believe big, but do you receive big? And that was a mic drop moment at brunch in her boot. She dropped that on us. And it has been, I mean, Brandy and Carly and I say it all the time. Like we just, go back and forth with that reminder to one another. And it definitely has stuck with me. And we all do that. We just share the insights and downloads and nuggets of wisdom that like God is continuing to give to us individually, but it's in support of us collectively. And the way that we all go out in the world and serve in our respective industries and fields and companies, look at the ripple effect of obedience. It's just the ripple effect of alignment. It's the ripple effect of sisterhood. And I am just so grateful to have you as my super friend, my sister friend. Our kids are going to college and we about to have to console each other, friend.
Yes.
That is really, we are both mothers of only daughters. Well, you have a second daughter, but being that we raised them and your other daughter is much older, this is real. And it's so wonderful to have a space where we can do that. We can share openly and transparently and authentically. And I'm so grateful for you being here, Sheri. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Girl, love you, love you, love you, love you. And I just want to say this, and to have a friend, super friend, sister that, guys, we talk business, but we talk life, every aspect of life, because it's the other aspects of life that impact the business. And you gotta have a safe space that really not will just meet you where you are, but will grow with you on the journey. And what I know about my sister Patrice and the decades that we have been friends, we have grown together on this journey and given each other the space to grow. And that is so, so, so important. It's so important. And I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you for being here. How can the audience connect with you further?
Yes. Well, I would love for everyone to join me on Instagram and LinkedIn. So it's at Sheri Riley. And as always, I say this as an act of obedience when it comes to my book, Exponential Living. Stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are. That really is the manual for everything that Patrice and I have talked about. I don't hawk books. I do inform about the power of God spoke through me. And that's the manual. That's the manual. So you can get that anywhere books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. And you can get autographed copies when you go to my website, sheririley.com.
And it is a game changer. It is such a game changer. And I'll also make sure that we link to the previous episodes with Sheri Riley, because always nuggets of wisdom, gems dropped. And we have talked about exponential living. Sheri, I love you. Thank you for being here.
I love you.
Oh my gosh, did that conversation not just light you up? Again, am just so grateful to have Sheri as a personal friend. Pray for us. Both our girls are going to college soon, as you just heard, and we will be empty nesters. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers. But more than that, I just pray that you take away so many nuggets from this conversation. And I want you to know that if Sheri, her energy, her spirit, her mission speaks to you, she has the PowerBrokers Academy that is now accepting applications. And this is a program that's strategically designed to take senior leaders and entrepreneurs on a journey to ignite personal and professional clarity, capacity, and action. They are now enrolling, and you can find out more at PowerBrokerAcademy.com. That's PowerBrokerAcademy.com. And please tag Sheri, slide into her DMs on Instagram, let her know that you are a purpose chaser and that you were moved by this episode, what you took away from it, and just show her some love. She is literally one of the most amazing women I have the privilege of calling friend. And I'm so glad I got to introduce her to you guys again, or reintroduce her. And if you have not gotten your ticket for Redefining Wealth Live, what actually are you waiting for? I am so excited. This is like the homecoming of Purpose Chasers, where I get to see so many of you in real time, but where we get to really go deeply in an immersive experience. I think it's so important. You think you hear things on the podcast, or if you're in the Institute for Redefining Wealth, you hear some of these things, but there's nothing like being in the room. There is nothing like working on the things and really giving yourself that time and that space to go all in for you. Sheri and I not only both host events, but we both go to events, and we understand the power and the magic of being in the space. And I definitely want to see you in the place. Redefining Wealth Live, October 7th and 8th. If you're VIP, it also includes a full day of coaching in a small group setting and training October 6th. Find out more at redefiningwealthlive.com. Make sure you are part of those very special co-created conversations that I'm hosting all summer long, to make sure that your transformation begins now. Because as Sheri says, we can't keep spending 100% of our time on only 10% of who we are. If you are going to truly make the progress you desire professionally and financially and in your purpose, you have to take aside some time to work on you. And that's what Redefining Wealth is. This is not just about budgets and credit reports. This is about your beliefs and your behaviors and how to make this a part of your DNA so that you can attract everything that you say you desire. I want to see you there, redefiningwealthlive.com. And until next time, I want you to go live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever feeling like you have to chase money. I'll talk to you later.